it right now. So if you want to go back and watch this video, you're certainly welcome to do that. That'd be true of any class we do. Okay, so the first one says add negative 3 plus 8. That would be 5. B, 6 plus negative 7. That would be, you guys shout it out, do you know it?
Negative 1.
Negative 1 is correct. That's excellent. Does anybody have any thoughts or questions on 1A or 1B? At all? We're adding integers here, adding positive and negative numbers. Okay. All right, so number 2, negative 9 minus negative 7. Whenever you see something minus a negative number, what can you do?
Add it to a positive.
Yeah, really, it's negative 9 plus a positive. I would really encourage you, and I'll give reasons for this later, I would encourage you to not do this. I see a lot of people that come from middle school that do that. When you cross over a grouping symbol like that, sometimes it's no big deal, sometimes it's a huge deal. And so I'd encourage you to not do that. If you notice you got parentheses right there, I would just go bam, bam, just plus a positive. Okay, so negative 9 plus a positive 7 is? Negative 2. You're right. Good job. And then negative 3 minus 5 is negative 8. Because if you look at numbers 1 and 2 kind of as a whole, these are, kind of something you'd see in a pre-algebra class where you're learning how to add and subtract positive and negative numbers, or positive and negative integers in this case. So overall, do you guys have any thoughts or questions? It doesn't even have to be like an I don't know how to do it sort of a thing, but here's how I think about it, or what do you think about this, or whatever. It could be any kind of a comment or thought on 1 or 2. Solid? Okay. Good. Okay, cool. And then plotting points. I'll try not to go the wrong way this time. 5, 6 would be 2, 4, 5, and then 2, 4. Did I do that right? 2, 4, 6. I think I counted up there correctly. So that would be point A. And then point B is 3, comma, negative 1. So 1, 2, 3, and then negative 1 is, come on, right about there. And then negative 4, 2, 3, 4, and then up 2 would be right about there. Okay, what do you think about that? A, B, C. Any questions? I have a question for you guys. Does anybody know what that point right there where the x and the y-axis intersect, you know what that's called? Yeah, Joe, right?
Yeah.
What's it called?
The origin.
Origin is right. You are on the money. And then if you look at the x and y-axis, don't the x and the y-axis kind of split the graph up into 4 parts? Do you guys remember what we call those 4 parts?
Quadrants.
Quadrants. Which one is quadrant 1?
Top right.
Top right. That's correct. So we usually use Roman numerals. And then, to get to quadrant 2, we go counterclockwise. And then lower left is quadrant 3. And then quadrant 4 is lower right. Again, just kind of terminology. I'm hoping you've seen this before multiple times. If you have, that's awesome. If you haven't, here's something new. Any questions at all? Okay, so I'm always going to assume, until I get to know your faces, I'm going to assume that silence, Colton, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that silence means you get it. Like Colton, I think would be a good poker player, because I'm looking at him, and I can't tell if he has 2 aces or a 2 and a 7. Like in math terminology, like I can't tell if he totally gets it or he's totally lost just by looking at his face. And so early on here, I'm going to assume that silence is golden, right? Means that you get it. Some folks, eventually, I'll be able to I know exactly what cards you have. Other people, I'm like, I don't want to play you in poker. You'd kill me because I don't know what you got. So that makes sense. It's hard to read faces sometimes. Okay, cool. And then the last one here, negative 2 minus 1, we plot that on the number line. So negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. And so on the number line, I would just put a little dot right there on the negative 3, and I've plotted that point. This is very pre-algebra level stuff here that we're doing. Hope it's going well for you. Last chance, just want to be totally open here. Any thoughts, questions, concerns? Okay, so just a reminder for you. This is kind of like what we did yesterday. And we're going to do this again tomorrow on Wednesday. On Thursday, what are we going to do with this?
Nothing.
We'll do something with it. There's a quiz, yes. So when you come to class on Thursday, so that would be day 3. Flip ahead to day 3 in your notes packet. It'll say evaluation day 3, I think. Keep going right there. Notice how there's no DMR for evaluation day 3. Like there's DMR for day 2, and there's one for day 1, DMR. But on day 3, there's no DMR because we're going to do a DMR quiz. That quiz will look an awful lot like this. even in format. It's going to have like a couple questions on addition and subtraction, one on graphing, and one with a number line. So if you've been paying attention yesterday, today, and tomorrow, doing okay, asking questions where needed, and hopefully that quiz is going to just be a bam, 100% to start you off right for the year. That makes sense? And we'll do that every week pretty much throughout the first semester. It'll all be review stuff. Okay? Just to kind of keep it fresh in your brain. Guys have any questions at all? Okay, awesome. So what we're going to do here today is going to be kind of a normal cadence for our class. Go ahead and flip over. You can go back to day 1 and unit 1, day 1, I guess it is. And we're always going to have, or mostly going to have, I can't say always, we're mostly going to have a section of class examples in which I'm going to take a couple minutes. And when I say a couple minutes, I mean that pretty literally. I'm never going to stand up here for like 45 minutes and just like talk at you. 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 7 minutes there, whatever it happens to be. And then I'm going to get you guys practicing and doing some stuff together and on your own. Okay, so the class examples are going to be where I attempt to teach the best of my ability, whatever it is, whatever skill we're working on. We're working on the skill of evaluation right now. You can see that on your notes there. I'm going to teach you 4 examples here, then I'm going to have you guys work on some examples on your own and together in little groups. Make sense? So I believe in structure, and I think that if we just have kind of a nice normal cadence to everything, nice rhythm to everything, hopefully you'll be comfortable and you'll do great. Make sense? Okay, so we're going to talk about how to add and subtract integers here. And this is for folks that maybe the last 5 minutes when we were doing that DMR, maybe they were a little shaky or they just didn't raise their hand, they were struggling. I want to give you some tools to use to get really good at this. That make sense? All right, so when you look at a question like number 1, number 1 is -1 plus -5. These are 2 signed numbers, or 2 integers. And there's a couple ways you could do this. One way you could do this is you could use the number line. And I'm going to use the number line. We'll talk about the concept as well. So on the number line, we always start, when we count these off, we start at 0. And we think of the signs on the numbers as directions. What would you think a negative would mean as far as directions go? Left. Yep, left on the number line is a negative, and right would be positive. So if I'm going to add -1 plus -5, I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to go left 1, and then I add a -5. That means go left again. So it basically means left, left. So I went left 1, and I'm going to go left 5. So I go left 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's the end of my addition, and I end up right there. Therefore, my answer would be -6. You could do this without the number line. You could look at this as a concept, and here's the concept. I'm going to try to squeeze this in here. I'll put it like this. If adding numbers with the same sign, add the numbers and keep the sign. So if you're adding 2 numbers with the same sign, you add the numbers and you keep the sign. So we're adding 2 negatives, right? So 1 plus 5 is 6. They were both negative, and so we keep the sign as negative. So you could use a number line. You could use that concept as well. This, again, hopefully the idea, if you're not already really good at this, you'll get super comfortable and you can do these very quickly and fairly easily. I think in my head, what I kind of do, I think in my head I'm doing number line stuff. I'm not picturing a number line, but I'm just like left, right, left, right, left, right, boom, answer. Maybe you're doing something similar as well. Cool. All right, so then number 2 takes the difficulty level up slightly. Instead of 2 numbers, there's 3 numbers. And so instead of 2 different little segments on our journey, we're going to have 3. So we always start right here at 0, and we think of negatives as left, positives as right. Here we go. So -2 would be left 2, plus a -3. That would be another left, so it'd be left 3. So I'm going to go left 1, 2, 3. And if I stopped right there, I'd be at -5. But it tells me to add a +4 onto the end of that. So I'm going to go back to the right 4 spots, which would put me right there. My final answer for this one would be -1. Concept. So if you are adding numbers with opposite signs, what you do is you subtract the smaller from the larger, and keep the sign of the larger. This is if you are adding opposite signed numbers. Subtract small from large, keep the sign of the larger number. You guys done the number line thing before? Looking around and seeing a lot of you doing that kind of thing, you seem comfortable with it. So that's just a skill. I want you to be real good. Okay. Any questions? Hopefully nothing I've said has confused you, but if it has, now would be a great time to be, you're not going to hurt my feelings. If I've confused you, I'd love to clear it up. If there's anything at all. No? Okay. Sure? Cool. All right, let's do our last two examples here. Numbers 3 and 4. So if you notice, numbers 3 and 4 are both subtraction problems. Number 3 is 10 minus 5 minus 8. And then number 4 has a bunch of them in there. So here's what I do here when I'm teaching this and I'm thinking about this. How I handle subtraction is basically I turn all subtraction problems into an addition problem. So here's what I would do with this. Number 3, I would say that this is really 10 plus negative 5 plus negative 8. So I think of everything as just addition of lefts and rights, that I don't have to memorize a whole bunch of other rules. It's going to be the same concept as before. Down here, we'll get to this one in a second. This would be negative 5 plus negative 7 plus positive 20. And then, of course, minus negative 3. We'll deal with that minus and negative here in a second. So I tend to think of everything in terms of being an addition problem. I've been doing math for a really long time, and that's still how I think about it. I think of everything as adding lefts and rights. Okay, so then number 3. Let's see if you guys can do this. We're going to start here at 0, and we're going to go left or right 10. Which one? Right. Go right 10. So we go all the way over here to the right side. And then we add to that a negative 5, so that means to go which direction? Left 5. Does that make sense? So I'm going to go back to the left 5. And then plus negative 8. What does plus negative 8 mean? Left 8. Okay, so I'm going to go left 8, which puts me right there. There's my answer, negative 3. What do you think? Okay? All right. So then number 4, negative 5 plus negative 7. We always start at 0. What does negative 5 mean? Left 5. So we're going to go that away. Bless you. Plus negative 7. That means to go left 7. And think of the sign on the number as giving us a direction. So, gosh, we're going to go off the end of our graph here, aren't we? Negative 11. I normally don't do that, but whatever. Negative 12, I think. So I go left 7 all the way over there. Plus a positive 20 really means which direction? Right. Got to go all the way back right 20. So that's going to put me way over there. And then lastly, it's minus negative 3, which is really plus a positive 3. And so plus a positive 3 means to go which direction? Right 3. So I'm going to end up right 1, 2, 3, and I went off my graph again. Put me 1 past 10, which is 11. There's my answer, 11. Okay. So let's do a little practicing. And so when we're doing these practice opportunities, today I'm going to leave it pretty open, I guess. So you know what? I take that back. I think we're going to be okay for the most part. Nick, right? Nick, maybe join up with one of your two sets of table partners here. Everybody else has a table partner. Would you guys kind of do like work together and check each other on these? So this next little section here, if you wouldn't mind, just trying 3 or 4 questions. What do we got over here? 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 questions on this next page. If you guys would, try all 3 of these. Check your answers together. Make sure you're all doing okay. Help each other out. So here goes. First thing I notice about number 1 is I've got minus and negative. So I'm going to go ahead and go right in there and put, really that's plus positive. And then I'm going to think of these as just directions, lefts and rights on my number line. So I always start at 0, and the negative 7 means left 7, plus 9 means right 9, plus 5 means right 5. So I ended up with 7 for this one. 7. Good? Okay. Number 2. Again, I've got this minus a negative, so I'm going to make that a plus, a positive. And again, I'm going to think of these as just directions. Negative 10 means left 10. Plus 14 means right 14. So I'm going to end up there at 4. Minus 6 just means left 6. So I'm going to go back left 6. I'm at negative 2 now. Plus 8 means right 8. So I'm over here at 6. And then plus 3 ends up, I believe, there at 9. Did I get that mapping all set there? Okay, so I got 9. Hope we're all agreeing. Do you guys have any questions so far? Okay. And then lastly, we get to number 3. Again, we got that minus and negative in there. And if you just follow your rules here, again, we're going to just go left and right. So I'm going to go right 6, then left 11, and then left 4, right 5, and then back left 3, which puts me, I think, at negative 7. I don't often do these number lines, and my lines might be off by a little bit, but I think we're at negative 7. Do you have any questions? Can I ask a question for you? Mr. Anderson, we're doing a quiz or a test. Do I have to do this number line thing? No, you do not. All right, so if you can go left and right in your head a bunch of times and get the right answer, that's fine by me. I'm not going to make you do this number line thing. It's just there as an aid if somebody needs a visual to kind of help them go back and forth. Make sense? And it's something that came up with several folks as I was walking around. Mr. Anderson, what kind of format do I have to have for my answer? Could I just put a little dot right here? Well, there's not going to be really a number line on a test or a quiz, so really no. What I'm really looking for here is for you just to put equals negative 7 or just arrow negative 7, or write negative 7 and circle it or something like that. Just indicate that that's your answer. You don't have to do anything really with a number line. Just there as an aid for you. Okay, we good? Okay, got a couple of concepts here real quick, and then I think we'll wrap this up for day 1. So here we go. And again, I want you guys to work on these last 4 questions. Kind of as a little table team, you can kind of compare answers and ask each other how you're doing and what you got for an answer. 4, 5, and 6, very conceptual. 7, a little bit of an application style question. All right? Ready, go. Take our last few minutes with this right here. A negative plus a negative. Any volunteers think they got this one? Negative plus a negative will always be, Ben?
A negative.
A negative. I agree. Negative plus a negative will always be a negative. And then number 5 is a positive plus a negative. So it's a little bit different here. Callie, what do you think?
Unknown.
It is unknown, right? What does it depend on?
It depends on like how high the positive number is and like just the numbers.
Yeah, which one's bigger?
The number.
Yeah, because if the positive number has a bigger absolute value, then the result will be positive, right? And if the negative has a bigger absolute value, then the result will be negative. There's one more possibility. Anybody know? So for number 5, the answer could be positive, or it could be negative, or Kyrie?
It could be 0.
Could be 0, couldn't it? Couldn't it be like negative 7 plus positive 7? So that one's really totally unknown, right? There's just no way of knowing based on that wording. And then a positive number plus a positive number, volunteers again. Anybody? Wit, right? Is always a positive. Agreed. Very good. Okay, you guys had a chance to get to that application number 7? Okay, if you haven't already done that, I'll give you maybe just another moment here to think that one through. It's a little harder, right? It's the proverbial word problem. Take a minute, read through it. We'll kind of talk about what to do with this here in a second, but I want to give you a chance to try this, compare with your neighbor, see how it all works. Ready, go. All right, here we go. It says the record high temperature of, oh my goodness, can you imagine? Pretty crazy. The record low, again, can you imagine? Pretty huge extremes. It says find the difference between these extremes. So there's a really key word in there. I'm going to underline what we're supposed to do. It says find. That's a key indicator of what we're supposed to do. It says find the difference between these extremes. Within that sentence, there's one really key word that tells us exactly what to do. Do you know what it is? Difference. What does difference mean? Subtraction. So we're going to have a part of our first unit here is going to be about translating. And so those of you that know that difference means subtraction, you're right with me. You're a little ahead of the game, I suppose. That's great. We'll look at other words too. But difference does mean subtraction. So what I think this is telling us to do, we could look at this at a couple different directions. I'm going to say the highest temperature recorded in the U.S. was 134 degrees. The difference between that and the low would be minus -80. And this will tell us the distance between these two extremes, essentially, right? The difference between them. So 134 minus -80 is really plus a positive, like we've been talking about. And so if you do 134 plus 80, you end up with 214. Wow, so the difference between those two temperatures was 214 degrees Fahrenheit. I would not want to have been in either of those places, really. There you go. Any questions? I hope this has been a good, first kind of real day for you. Let's see here. I want to do a couple more things with you. I'm going to close up this video.